Welcome everybody. In today's demonstration, I will show you how we can transform something like this to something like this. Here we go and welcome. I've just want to show you how we can take a scene, be inspired by it, and mess around with it until it makes sense for us, and we go crazy. We create a bit of art. Why not? So I'm just drawing up, sketching in rough marks. As you can see, the first little thing I want to do is find my horizon line. I'm going to push it back a bit and get my rough shape of my first little bit in there. And I think there's a steeple of some sort going on, and there's definitely a steeple of some sort in the back as well. That'll be encased in trees, and we can go whoop-de-doo straight up there, and cool. Tree. In the back here, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to draw anything in particular. Just going to let the brush do some work there for us. So we want to get a couple of cars in, I reckon. Nice little street scene. So you don't have to always be so faithful to your reference. You want to use it as inspiration, as a jumping off point, if you will. Now, with cars, the best way I find in landscapes like this and streetscapes, they always look better if they're just either coming toward you or going away from you, sort of straight on. It's easier to draw that way for sure, but they always end up looking a bit better. Now, just draw a little trapezoid with a little box underneath it, a couple of wheels, a bit of a shadow. Away we go, that's our car. So don't think about too much more of that. I mean, look, I can only teach you what I do, and my philosophy is if it looks like a car, then it's a car. I don't care if it's a particular model or make or anything like that. It's not a drawing of a car, not a painting of a car. It's just, it's got to do a bit of work for us and tell us that it's a car. As soon as it indicates that it's a car, it's all over for us. That's it. It's good. Now, a couple of figures. Oh, there's a fence in there. I'll do a bit of a fence. Look at that, very complex. And there's obviously a bit of a churchy type building, windows, whatever. Do some pointy bits, crosses and whatnot. A couple of windows, or maybe just a single window. We'll do two, why not? There you go. This is how complex your drawing has to be, i.e. not very. A couple of figures. Figures are always sort of going to be a bit taller than your average sedan, So don't go too crazy with your figures. But I mean, you can put in as few or as many as you like. I like to, obviously, composition rules, you want to go for odd numbers of things, but it's up to you. It's your scene. It's your little world. Do whatever you like. And I'm going to make up some light coming down from here, but it's all early morning and some shadows are going to be going in that direction. So I don't care. It's on there. Whatever. Drawing done. Very, very tricky, wasn't it? So this stuff in the background, here's a little sketch I did yesterday. Some stuff in the background here, I'm just going to make it up and just do it like couple of hard lines, couple of soft marks. That'll be cool. And kind of away we go. It's all a bit interpretive. We don't want to spell everything out. You don't want to spell it all out. Okay. Now I feel like living on the edge, so I'm going to use one of these brushes that I've never used before. It's I think they call it a cat's tongue or something. It's just like it's almost like a filbert. I love that word. Almost. But I want some nice glow. But I want some nice soft, nice brightness coming from this area. So I'm just sort of roughing in a bit of a circle where I want my main light source to be coming from. What do we got? Let's go some raw sienna. Oy. Look at that. Lovely. 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 Look at this. I got another filbert, another cat's tongue, and there's a bigger one. Why not use that? Thanks to Adriana at Art Scene for showing me these. I'll give them a go. Happy to. And a bit of warmth. Just a bit of warmth. Nothing outlandish. And I want to kind of reflect that a little bit down here. I've got some paint in my brush still. That'd be handy. Nice raw sienna. I like raw sienna for its transparent qualities. I really like that. It just it dries off like really light and bright, if you know what I mean. It's not opaque like I used to use yellow ochre a lot, and I just found it ended up being a bit heavy and a bit muddy. But that could also just be what I was used to. And a bit of lavender here. Lavender's a good colour to get into. It's fairly opaque when you just use it on its own, but it washes out really nicely and blends really nicely as well. So if you get into it, see, I'll show you. You know, you can do little bits. See that? Bring it down. And I want to just reflect or mirror, if you like, just that strength down the bottom. Now I'm going to go quite warm in the foreground here. I'm going to warm it up purely because I want some nice, I know that down the track I want some nice cool shadows. So warm, cool, yin and yang, all of that. We want all that going for us. While this is all wet, you can just muck around with it. If you want some specific cloudy bits, go for it. I quite like that cat's tongue brush. That's all right. What I will do is just kind of try and get a little bit of that back, just that little bit of brightness there. Not much. I don't care too much. Yep, that's all right. And these trees here, just while this is drying off, these trees I want to get in a nice underneath wash that we can play with. That'll be nice and bright. Crazy colour. Let's go some lemon yellow. Lemon yellow, as you probably know, it's really bright. It's like a bright yellow. And that's cool. That's good. Want to do something outlandish? Go for it. It's not outlandish enough. And we may need to dry it off and then put it on. But that's all right. It'll start doing its thing for us anyway. Oh, no, it's all right. It's getting there. That's all right. It's actually doing what I wanted, which is good. It's always good when it behaves a bit. It's all right. Pretty subtle. Pretty subtle, but that's okay. We'll dry it off and I think redo it. Looks good. Okay, drying time. Here we go. All right, and we're back. Okay, so it's dry. Obviously, every time it dries off a lot lighter than it looks when it's wet, which is perfectly normal, perfectly good. That's kind of one of those things we have to get our heads around and prepare for it when we're mixing our colours and worrying about the strength. Right, I'm just going to start background to foreground. I've got a little bit of lavender. I love it. And a little bit of burnt sienna. I love that too. Fair bit of water. We want it quite washy. But I don't want to mix it as such. I want to marble it, if I can, in the palette just a little bit. See how strong it is. And I'm just making this up. I know there's a distance and stuff back there, but I'm just making it up, and I want it to be nice and soft. So I'm leaving some marks that will suggest buildings and rooftops and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm making sure I put water in there so it softens it. I don't want a hard edge at the distance for this. I want it to disappear back. And just let your brush dance around. Let it go. The more little pops of light you leave, better result you'll get. I mean, the whole thing can't be light, of course, but if you leave some, you're laughing. Leave some little gaps. And notice how I'm not really going back into paint now. I'm just sort of going back into the water and making sure it softens up a bit. Now, one thing I do want to do is there is a hill there that I just want to make sure it all makes sense for that. So that little crest that we're looking over all makes sense. Yep, happy with that. Good. I don't care about this little bit of bleeding and stuff here and cauliflowering because I'm going to go. That's all going to be trees and things anyway. So as you can see, just by leaving a few gaps and painting with impressionism as opposed to spelling everything out, we end up with something quite nice. And because it's the background, we tend to work it too much. So be mindful of that. It's sort of the first thing that's on the page, really, usually. So, yeah, that's all right. I'm happy with that. I'll just leave it as it is, though, because I know that there's going to be other stuff going on, so I don't need to muck around with it anymore. What I will do is go back into the same sort of pigmentation that we've got over here and just start mucking around with these little steeples and things. That's all cool. And when you're painting your steeples and things like that, really important to be as direct as you can. It looks better if you get it wrong, so to speak, and leave it than if you muck around with it trying to repair little bits, and you'll end up with a better result, a stronger, more painterly result if you just, dare I say, let it go. All right. Okay, so we're going to get quite strong in here, in this shape of this church, purely because we're into the light and we want nice shadows and we want it to be nice and nice silhouette. But at this point, I'm getting some burnt sienna going, and we will just come down to A little bit, why not? With burnt sienna and a bit of ultramarine, we start getting a nice dark. And we can muck around here. See, I'm using the brush, painting quite quickly, but just using the point of the brush. You want to do that when you need to. Use the side of the brush when you're doing bits like that. Why not? Here we go. Let's go with the predominant blue. Then we can go in up with a predominant brown over the top of it, burnt sienna, and you start getting things that are quite dark and nice, and things are mixing on the page for you. So, you know, you don't have to, like I say, you don't have to spell everything out. You don't want to do that. It's a piece of art, hopefully. You know, you want to try to have it be full of artistic flair and interpretation and all that. You know, you don't, I mean, short of an abstract, I mean, I'm not into abstract stuff myself too much, but, you know, I like how you can, some abstracts are really good. You know they're good when you find yourself wandering your eye around the piece, just trying to find little bits. That to me is a good abstract. All right, so that's been worked a bit there. So I'm going to leave it for a second. There's a bit of neutral tint that I've got there it's just straight from the tube, really, that I'm just popping in there. Cool. Now what I think I'll do, I think I'll get these trees in because they're coming over the top, and that'll bring us to a good spot, I reckon. And got one of these. This is my Skippy brush, my dodgy brush. Yep. Quinacridone gold. That's a crazy colour. Oh, that's a horrible green, that one. Let's get something a little bit more natural. Don't want to be too green. I want it to be a bit more muted than that. So we'll go in with a bit of neutral tint. But that yellow underneath, if you make your brush dance around and not cover everything, and it can shine through and give it a nice glow. And once again, you're not spelling everything out. It's not a race to see who can read the painting the quickest, you know. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You want a bit more interest in your work than that. I like that. That's good. Anything over here with the tree, just going to put a bit of water on it. I want this a bit darker. I want some darker bits here, because here's a trick. It's not really a trick, it's just something I like to do. It looks cool. Is whenever you've got bits, like it works particularly well with foliage. If you get a brush and just drip some water down and let it run down in just a couple of spots, and let water do some of the work for you and create some passages, it's good. The more you can do that, the better. Geez, you're laughing. Do like just get a rigger or something, and must have cleaned it properly. Damn it. Mustn't have cleaned my rigger properly, so it's quite hard. It's gone hard. Yep, sure has. That's okay. What we'll do, we'll get this brush. Yeah, that's dagger. They're good. I like these brushes because you can't control them, so your foliage goes everywhere in a good way. You know, your branches and things. It's good when you've got a brush that you have no real mastery of because it gives you some more natural looking marks. And same over here, not much. What we can do is we can just bring something out like that, just so it looks like it's coming through. Why not? And even get another colour, why not? Let's put some raw sienna. Just let it run around. Why not? A bit of lavender. A bit crazy. Let it run around, do its thing. All right, before I start other things, I'm just having a look here. And a bit solid, a little bit solid here. So just going up with just a tissue, something like that, just to get it moving out of the way a bit for us. All right, so I'm just going to dry this off with a hairdryer, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, here we go again. It's dried off, and things are settling in nicely. I like it. I like it. So, a few little touch-ups to do with the church, which I'll do now. I'll do first because I don't want to work it again. I don't want to touch it again once I've done these little bits. Some quite thick paint, and I'm just coming up here to put a definite, I'm just making it up really from the scene, but I want something definite there. And go across just with a bit of dry brush and sort of do that kind of effect, really. That's about it. Yeah, just under there. I don't really care too much about the window and that here. It's just indicating bits. Those little bits of light that are left are good. So bang, bang. Why not? Cool. Yeah, that's about it. All right, let's do the cars. Generally speaking, I do cars with either a white windscreen or a dark windscreen. So in this case, I'm going to do a couple of each. I'm going to make these two, these two dark and this one light. And I'll show you what I mean. Like, just get a bit of a washy something. This is just a bit of neutral tint. These two cars here are connected to each other. It's all good. Now, a bit of burnt sienna and blue. Thickish paint. And just put a couple of little dots here and there to tie them all together. This one here is quite nice. And there's always darkness under cars. Just that shadow of it sitting on the ground. It's always there. And with this one over here, and that's how I'll pretty much leave those. I might put a bit of a tail light thing going on in a second. But not much. Actually sitting down painting day, which is weird. I haven't done it for a long time. Living on the edge, eh? It's go. Where's the good old cat's tongue gone? Here we go. Yeah, a bit of water. It's pretty clean, and a bit of the darker paint just to frame it up a little bit. That's all. Just to give it a bit of interest. But ultimately, we want that nice and dark, and keep that nice and light. But that's sort of all we'll do with the cars for now. Excuse me. Just keeping this dark on the brush. Now, with figures in this sort of scene, we are painting into the light. So yeah, usual stuff. There's not much in the way of detail. It's all pretty dark and just out of, putting something there just for that fact. Get a bit of darkness in, join them all up. There we go. Look at that, 2 people there already. And just using whatever's going. Join everything up if you can. It's always a good thing. Yeah, our legs are generally speaking done with a what do you call it? A dry brush, so it gives the illusion of a fair bit of movement. I like it. And that kind of thing. Not much. No details or anything. And, you can make one of them carrying bags or whatnot. Might put some scarves on. There's a few things you can do there. This one's good. And I like that loosey-goosey feel. I think it's more interesting than having something be super tight and ultimately boring in my mind. I don't want to ever want one of my paintings to look realistic or photographic. I want it to be interpretive. Just putting a stronger couple of trunk lines in there. We'll do something similar. And we'll put some nice verticals in with a couple of telegraph poles and things, I reckon. Okay, that's all right. I'm just gonna sort of dull these faces down. They're a bit bright, bit orange. That's okay. So this is just a way to interpret a scene and make it your own. So I'm just going to dry this off, and I'll come back and start on some shadows, and then finishing touches will be all right. 3, 2, 1. Okay, here we go. It's all looking really clean, which it's generally not. I want it to be a bit more realistic than that, but that's okay. We'll get there. I'm going to do the shadow. Generally speaking, I do, in scenes like this, I do my big shadows first. Well, before the end, basically, before the last step. Some people do them as the very last step, but I like to do them at this step, and then you can tweak things within those shadows. So let's mix up a nice shadow colour. So I'm going to go a blue, but a grey blue. I don't want it to be too cool. I want it to be fairly neutral. But I need a fair bit of it, and I need it to be strong enough to hold up to drying. I'm always wary of that. I want that to dry off, but I don't want it to dry off and lose its intensity, if you know what I mean. All right. So one thing I do want is a nice soft edge. See, shadows, I've got the arrow there, reminded me, remember? So shadows coming down here, and I'm going to do a couple of smaller ones coming from the cars and things. So, but I want a couple of soft edges. Yep, they're cool. So let's have a look. Yeah, nice, good. I think all my paint's disappearing into the bottom of my palette there. That's all right. We can adapt. Let some stuff mix on the paper as well. Doesn't all have to be perfectly mixed when we start. Cool, that's looking okay. Happy there, happy there, happy there. Yeah, cool. Happy in general there. So that's all we sort of need with the shadows. So I'm going to dry that off, and then we'll finish up and tie it all together. Okay, so we have, at the moment, I need to put in a few details. Bits of dry brush, little bits of maybe some colour on the figures. I'm even going to invent a little telegraph pole, I think, just to get some nice thin calligraphy marks going across the top there. That'd be good. So I'm going to mix up, or just get a little bit of a dark colour going. I'm going to put it, it's all, yeah, I'm going to put it about here. That kind of thing. We'll put another one a bit smaller down there. All right. No, that's cool. Happy with that. Just looking to see if there's anything we need to fix up. Yeah, I'm just making a bit more of that bloke's legs and bag and things. guy's all right. He's got a vest on, tie. Maybe there's a scarf or something there. These little embellishments of colour, they're, you know, fun and everyone goes, ooh, ah, but they really do serve a nice purpose in your piece. Like they give you a bit of something else to focus on, something different. Okay. Just looking for my favourite red in the world, Pyrrole red. Yeah. Straight from the tube, I'm going to put on a couple of these little buggers, little lights. And this guy's got a red beanie. A couple of red lights is always good. Okay, I've now got in my hand a needle brush or rigger. Just want to get some lines going out of the frame. Now, you've kind of got to be quick and don't correct things. If it's like that, good. It's like this, good. That's it. Yeah. That kind of vibe is good. And I want to put some directional lines on the road. See, these directional lines usually make the shadows really work, make everything kind of pop out. Don't make them too neat, though. Get them right, perspective-wise, but you really don't have to make them neat at all. In fact, it's better if you don't. You know, you can do things like, you know, here we go, why not? Let's just, there's a sign on the telegraph pole. There, and I'll put something else on that. But, you know, put your highlights on the heads and shoulders of your people. Your cars, the headlights. That's pretty cool. Little bits. It's just little bits, that's all. Look, there's the boy screaming. There we go. Now with that road sign, all you need to do, I don't know, grab a bit of red and that's it. All of a sudden it's a road sign. So I reckon it's okay. I'm pretty happy with that. There you go. I reckon that's pretty cool. I'll take the tape off and see how it's looking. And there you go. I reckon it's got a really nice glow to it. I'll be happy to check it out once it's dried off and settled down a little bit. Because everything does tend to settle and brighten up once it dries off. So yeah, pretty happy with it. I reckon it's cool.